Hello everyone, welcome back to the Flix Files. It's movie news time again. So every Tuesday I'm doing a quick movie news video of the news that has occurred in Hollywood over the past week that I found interesting. So this is not an exhaustive list by any stretch of the imagination. It's just stories that intrigued me of new and upcoming movies. So hopefully it will intrigue you as well. So let's get into it. I'll zip along. So the first story is news of the prequel series to Stephen King's It. And I believe this is meant to be the prequel to the two movies that came out recently, the two movies that Andy Muschietti directed. And I'm looking forward to this. I thought when I first heard of this, it was a really poor idea. But then I remembered how rich Stephen King's novel was. I've read that a couple of times. And the prequel series is set in 1962, I think it is. And the idea is, if you've seen it, if you remember this, that Pennywise is an evil alien entity that kind of resurfaces every 25 years. And he preys on people in the town of Derry, and then kind of sinks back into the sewers and hibernates for 25 years before he resurfaces. So I think the idea is with this first prequel series is that it's set 25 years before the movie came out, before the events in both of the movies. And I've read that if it's successful, they plan to do two more series which go back further in time, another 25 years. So it's an interesting concept. And in the story I read about this series, it mentioned that some of the executives have seen early footage of this series and were very happy with what they saw. So I'm going to keep an open mind, and I'm going to try and catch this on whatever streaming platform it becomes available on in the summer of this year. So I will probably do another video about that when I've seen it and give you my thoughts on it, because I'm a big Stephen King fan. I always have been ever since I was a teenager. So yeah, I thought that was quite interesting. And if it's the same creative people doing the miniseries that did both of the movies, then it should be above average, let's say. So the next story is to do with the proposed sequel to Alien Romulus. As we all know, Alien Romulus is a very successful movie. It did way better at the box office than what they projected it would. And critically, it did very well. I think it ranks in many people's lists as their third best Alien movie. And there's now been talk of a sequel, which the director Fede Alvarez is very keen on doing and is already planning ideas. And there was a story circulating that the sequel to Alien Romulus would feature a de-aged Ripley. And when I read this, I thought, well, I'm not surprised that they would do that, given that it seems to be more and more common these days to de-age people. And I'm thinking of the new Tom Hanks movie called Here, which I've yet to see. But I noticed they used de-aging technologies in that to bring Tom Hanks back to how he was in, say, the early to mid 80s when he made Splash and movies like that. So I wasn't surprised when I read this, but it's since been debunked by Fede Alvarez himself. So it was an interesting story for all of like 2 days, and then he debunked it. And I thought, well, that's fine. I think Ripley and the Aliens universe, if they're going to move forward with the franchise, they need to kind of separate away from that character, much like they did with Prometheus. So Fede Alvarez has gone on record to say that is not true and that there isn't plans to do that, but he does have some very cool ideas for a sequel, and he wants to take it places that the Alien franchise has not yet been. So I'm intrigued to know what will happen. And if he is making a sequel and he's going to direct it, then I'll really be looking forward to that, and I'll keep an eye on further news and let you know. The next one is a continuation of a story that I mentioned in one of my previous movie news videos, to do with a sequel to the wonderful Jim Henson movie Labyrinth in 1986. And I'm very happy that I read this as a continuing story, because it gives me another reason to put up some pictures of Jennifer Connelly, who I'm absolutely obsessed with, and I think she's absolutely gorgeous. And I've always loved her ever since I was a teenager. She's the same age as me, and she looks a hell of a lot better at 55 than I do. But I kind of grew up being in love with Jennifer Connelly, and it's never gone away. But the news is that it's now confirmed that Robert Eggers, the American filmmaker Robert Eggers, is indeed signed on to do the sequel to Labyrinth. Now, we won't see it for a few years, because his next movie, after Nosferatu, the Dracula movie, is going to be called Werewolf, and apparently it's a 13th century set tale to do with a werewolf. So he kind of likes dealing with more medieval themed topics, and I'm very intrigued to see what he'll do with Werewolf. But I'm really, really looking forward to seeing what he does with Labyrinth 2. So that is something I'm really excited about. It's a shame that we've got to wait a couple of years before we see it. So we've got no idea what the story is going to be about. Apparently it is a continuation of the original Labyrinth. It's not a remake or a retelling. So whether that means Jennifer Connelly will be back, hopefully she will, even if it's just in a small role. But yeah, I was very excited to hear about that. And I'm glad it's confirmed, because I think Robert Eggers is a very talented filmmaker. And I think to see him tackle a fantasy adventure along those lines would be something else. Steven Spielberg, do you remember him? You know that guy? His new movie is currently in development, and it has a working title of The Dish. And apparently this is a movie based on his own story, his own concept, and it's about UFOs. Ooh. And let's face it, the times that Steven Spielberg has dabbled with aliens and UFOs, they've always ended up being absolutely cracking movies. So I'm very excited to see what this movie will be. Apparently describing it as a big blockbuster. Emily Blunt is the main star, and the British actor Colin Firth is also in it, and that's all we know. I don't know anything else. I've done some research, and details are very thin on the ground. So the fact it's called The Dish is giving me kind of Jodie Foster Contact vibes. I wonder whether it's to do with a first contact, much like Close Encounters, but this is obviously a different spin on it. So yeah, I'm intrigued to see what that will be. And again, I'm going to keep my ear to the ground, and when I get new news on that, I'm going to let you know in these videos. Mission Impossible Final Reckoning is coming up this summer, and this is the last Mission Impossible movie that Christopher McQuarrie will be writing and directing. I think this will be his fifth, is it four or five he's done now, but they're all cracking. I love his movies. He's very good at staging action and making it very, very clever and easy to follow and exciting. And I'm specifically thinking of the sequence with the train at the end of the last Mission Impossible movie, Dead Reckoning. That was just unbelievable, an unbelievable piece of action cinema. So that was like the first part of a two-parter. So the final movie, Final Reckoning, is out this year. And there's been another trailer released for it in the last few days that hints at some of the action sequences. Apparently there's meant to be a mid-air fight involving two biplanes. I've seen pictures of Tom Cruise hanging onto a biplane as it does all sorts of aerobatic maneuvers. And knowing Tom Cruise, you can bet he really was up there. There's no CGI involved there other than blurring out a few wires. So yes, I'm really looking forward to that. And in the article that I read, they had some early test screenings, and some of the audience feedback described the action as breathless. So you think, oh yes, this should be great. I'm really looking forward to it. So that's it. Nice and quick and easy. They're the stories that attracted me this past week. The other thing that I thought I would do, and I'll try and make it a semi-regular thing, is to just give you some release dates of upcoming movies on 4K that you may be interested in buying. Certainly I'll be buying these. So they're worth putting in your diary if you think you're going to pick these up. So the first date is the 3rd of February. And the first movie which comes out on that date is the 4K and Blu-ray release of Winchester 73, the Western starring James Stewart. I've always liked this Western. And I nearly bought it on Blu-ray some years ago as an import. And I'm glad I didn't, because Criterion are doing a special release of it with a remastered picture. And that's what comes out on the 3rd of February. So I'm still deciding whether to buy it on 4K or Blu-ray, because the thing is with Criterion releases, they are a bit more expensive. So the 4K will be like 30 UK pounds. So, but it's on my to get list. I'll either get it on Blu-ray or 4K. And then on that same day, the 4K of the movie The Last Voyage of the Demeter is released. And this is a telling of Dracula, but it's all set on the ship the Demeter, which is the ship that Dracula used to sail to the port in Whitby. So my cat's just walked in. So that is a very good movie. I've seen it. I was very disappointed that it didn't get a physical release in this country. It was released in America, but it looks like we're finally getting a physical release of it in this country on the 3rd of February. And again, I plan on picking that up in 4K. So that's Last Voyage of the Demeter. If you like your Dracula movies, definitely give this a go. It has Alien vibes because of the tension of them being in the confined spaces of the ship. And Dracula is amongst them somewhere, hiding in the ship. It's just a really good horror movie. Then on the 24th of February, the 4K of Amadeus, Milos Forman's Amadeus. I've always loved this movie. I've seen it quite a few times. I had it on VHS back in the day. Never had it on DVD, and I don't own it on Blu-ray. Again, it was one that was on my to-get list, but it was never easily available in this country. I think it was another one that you could only get on import. So I'm really happy that we're finally getting a 4K release. So in a way, I'm glad I didn't buy it, and I can get this version instead. So I'm looking forward to that. And then finally, on the 3rd of March, we get 4K releases of David Fincher's Panic Room, starring Jodie Foster, which is a movie I absolutely adore. And I plan on doing a deep dive video about that movie when I get the 4K and I get to watch it again. Back in the day, I had this on DVD, and it was one of those super bit DVDs, they called it. They were DVDs that were encoded at a slightly higher bit rate than the normal DVDs, and it was meant to make the picture a lot crisper and sharper. I don't remember it having that effect, but it'll be nice to own it again and put it back in my library. And then on the same day, on the 3rd of March, is Ridley Scott's Gladiator 2. And I haven't seen this yet, but I plan on renting it on streaming before I buy it. I'm a massive, massive fan of the first Gladiator, and certainly the clips I've seen of Gladiator 2 are winning me over. But I'm also aware that critically it didn't quite hit the dizzy heights of the first movie. So I'm gonna play it safe, watch it on streaming beforehand and see if I like it or not. And if I do, I'll pick up the 4K when it comes out on the 3rd of March. So there we are. That's my movie news for this week. I hope you found that quick and interesting. Apologies that I didn't upload a video last Friday. I was taking a little bit of time off from making videos while I plan what I'm doing going forward. But you'll be pleased to know that normal service will be resumed this week, and I will be uploading a video on Friday, and then every week from then on it will be a video on a Tuesday and a Friday. And I'm hoping, although I'm not promising this just yet, that I can squeeze in a third video at some point between those two. So it's worth keeping an eye on my channel if you're interested. In fact, keep an eye on my community page. I tend to post little messages a few days before I upload a video to give you a little preview as to what that video will be about. And that's available on my YouTube community page. So if you tend to watch YouTube just on TV, then you probably won't see that post. But if you watch it on your phone or on a computer, you will. So there we are, nice and quick and easy. I hope you enjoyed that update this week, and I will speak to you soon, guys. Take care for now.